So now that this looks pretty good, let's go to one of these other layers and just do the same thing. So let's go to this Andrew hair layer. Remember this hair in the back we want to use. So let's go ahead and do the same thing real quick. Go to our channels, select one of them, usually blue, gives a really good contrast. And then control click to select the channel. Create a layer mask out of it, Control I to invert that mask, and that's our starting point. Then we'll go to Control M to add a curve to that layer mask. Something like that. I'm really focusing on this information down here, because that's the part of this layer we're going to use. Okay, so with my lasso tool, I'll go around his head and then down here. Control Shift I to invert the selection. And then with a black brush, just go through and completely paint out everything else. Okay. And with that brush, I'll go through here and kind of paint out some of these areas. You don't need any of this. And I'm just keeping his face there for reference when we stick it on the other layer that we'll actually be using this on. So instead of using the blur tool on this, let's just add a blur filter. We'll do that by going to Filter. Remember for this, by the way, have your layer mask selected, not your layer, because then you'll be adding the filter to your layer and you don't want that. You want it just to the mask. So let's go in here so we can get a pretty good view of it. Select Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and then we can kind of see what it's doing in here. So that's a little too much, actually. I just want the slightest amount. I don't want it to look like a blurry selection. I just want it to look like hair. Okay, around 1 pixel is good for that. Click OK. Great. And now let's isolate our view of this layer mask and go back and dodge and burn in the same way as we did before. So I'll just use my tablet for this because it's so much easier. Tablets can get expensive, and I don't want you to feel like you have to have one, especially if you do photography as a hobby or if you do it and you're just starting out. Basically, you will know when it's worth spending that much money on because of the amount of time you're doing this in Photoshop. If I had to do this with a mouse, as I used to do all the time, I'd be really frustrated, especially with the amount that I have to do this type of thing. So when it becomes worth it to you, my advice is that's when you should go out and get a graphics tablet. And I also recommend starting out with a pretty cheap one to get to learn on, because in general, it's basically just a pen, a pad where you write with the pen, writes on your screen. Don't go too crazy with it. It doesn't matter that much, especially if it's your first one. Get comfortable with the idea of using a graphics tablet. Buy something cheap. And then if it's working for you, then go out and get something nicer. If it's not, then you won't have lost too much. Okay, let's take a look at that. It's looking good. Now down here you can kind of see some discoloration here because it didn't cut out the hair exactly perfectly. Some of that is the white background. Okay, so a quick tip you can do for that is add a new layer above the layer you're trying to affect. And then you can choose a similar color. So if you hold down I, you can select, it'll go to your eyedropper tool and you can select a color. And then if you paint with that color around the areas you're trying to affect here, let's just do that. You don't want to get rid of all the detail in the hair, but I'll just show you what this looks like. Then apply it to the layer beneath. And already you can see that it's getting rid of all that discolored area. And then you can choose like a overlay blend mode or something, or soft light. Bring the opacity down. So now it looks like that. We want to get rid of some of the discoloration, so bring it up like that. And there you go. You can compare it to the areas around it. So this has so much discoloration in it. Now this doesn't. So let's just keep going like that with our brush tool around some of the areas on this layer. Don't go overboard with this. Just where it needs it. You don't want to just like color in all the hair because then you lose all the detail in the hair. Okay, I don't think I'm going to use these areas of hair, but just in case, I'll just quickly paint these out. If I go over all this, I don't care too much. Because I'm most likely not going to use those areas. Okay, so there we go. There's that layer of hair cut out. I need to get rid of some of this a little better, so I'll go to a white brush on my layer mask. Black brush on my layer mask is what I meant. Paint all that out. And good. I might bring the opacity of this layer down a little bit because I kind of overdid it. Something where you can really see the detail still, but you're just decreasing that amount of discoloration. Okay, now let's merge these layers together. So we have Andrew face here, Andrew hair here. So for Andrew face, we don't need any of the hair below here. So let's go with a brush and fade it out down here. You want to use a soft brush here because we are going to be blending these together. And with this, let's just let's go ahead and merge these three layers as one. Now we can resize this to fit where we need it to down here. Actually, it'll be like something like that. And then with a brush on this, I'll just straight up use my eraser, which is something I rarely do, but I know what I want to keep on this, and it's not this top area. So, yeah, I'll still use the layer mask just in case. Layer mask, and then with black, paint out up here. And we're just getting the back of the hair there. And then we can move this around a little better. I want it to look pretty messy. This is probably too much. Kind of looks weird. The thing is, his hair is really big. Okay. Now I am glad I didn't erase. Okay, let's see. This doesn't matter too much other than, okay, other than the fact that we want it to blend well. It doesn't matter which areas of hair we use. I will now go to my transform tool and then click on this. I'll bring this up a little, like a lot. Ugh, not that much though, because then it looks all warped. Okay, that's much closer to what we want. I think I'll end it right there. Bring back some of this on this side. Okay, now on this layer, I'll have to bring back some of this down here. Okay, now this obviously isn't great, so we will go ahead and cut this out, right? Nope, that's this one. Cut this out. Okay, now let's go steal a strand of hair from this extra layer that we have, Andrew Hair 2. Let's quickly go to channels, select the green or the blue, mask that, turn off our other layers, invert that mask, Control M to add a curve layer. Okay. Now this can be a lot more rough of a selection. Let's see what I want to select. Go through, I'll add a blur to this one as well. The same amount to hopefully help a little bit down here. Now, I need something here to cover this up. So if we take a strand, like maybe this right here, just go ahead and do that now. So I'm gonna Control J to duplicate this whole layer and layer mask. Apply the layer mask. And then I'm just going to, with my lasso tool real quickly, go around this area. Control C. And no, I will just Control invert and then deselect everything else. Okay, so Control Shift I to invert the selection, then deselect everything else. And now we have this little hair element that we can use on this. We have this and this. Now we have our hair here. Transform. So let's go ahead and go image or edit, transform, flip horizontal, and I'll just flip that layer horizontally. Then when we go in, it'll be facing more. That's the right way. Scale it down. You just stick it like on here. That'll be fine. Let's pull it behind this layer. Okay. And now we need to do that with another element from here. So again, we'll do Control J to make a copy of this. Let's see. This in here might be super helpful. So let's go to our lasso tool, select in here, Control Shift I, and delete everything else. Control D, and then with this layer mask, we can just apply a layer mask. No, we can't edit it anymore, but we don't want to. Okay, let's turn on our other layers. Bring this to the bottom as well. And then we'll place it probably want to flip this one as well. So edit, transform, flip horizontal. And then we'll like flatten it a little bit. We want to cover up some of this in here. So we'll go like that. Okay, accept that, and then we'll add a mask to this and paint out these areas that we don't need. Okay, it's fun, it's messy, it kind of looks weird, but I'm okay with that. Oops. Maybe we don't need that much. Yeah. I like this, so I'll just brush down, and then that there looks like it's coming from like somewhere in here, which is great. I'll paint this in a little more. Okay, there we go. Now this layer, we want to kind of do the same thing we did before. So add a new layer above it with that dark color selected. And this can just, it could even be like pure black here. That would be fine. Remember to apply it to layer beneath. And then we'll go to a soft light blend mode, bring the opacity down until it just looks good. Okay, like that. And then on this layer, let's see, did I miss something here? Okay, yeah, we need to fix it on this layer up here too. So add a new layer on this one, apply it beneath, paint out this area, soft light. There we go. Same thing here. Oops. Apply it to the layer beneath. Remember, Alt-click to apply a layer to the layer beneath it. Soft light, opacity. Okay. Now, when we put this all in the water, it will look a lot better because it will be kind of hidden behind other elements. This still isn't great here, so maybe I'll just bring the opacity up on that. And then erase some of these areas. Oops. Just go to a normal brush. Oh, I'm at opacity 6. I was so confused why that wasn't working. Okay. And now I'll get more specific. So I'll go to my brush again. Really focus on these areas that are too light and it's making it blend not beautifully. Okay. This will bring a little darker. Okay, and you know what we'll do here is we'll just mask some of this out. So black brush, lower opacity, pretty small here, and just, oops, don't want to do that. There we go. Just mask some of these out where the blending is not looking good. Much better. Now what layer is that? Okay, that'll be a little tougher. Lower the... Yep, okay. Something like that, and now look at his hair. It looks awesome. So we will just take these layers and put them all into one group, all of the hair. We'll name this group head. Okay, perfect. That's Andrew's head. And now we'll turn on Andrew arms, and we will place the head on here. So, Control T, bring it down. Don't scale it down too much. So it really needs to match at this line here and at this line here at this shirt. So bring that in there so it's covering the other line from the neck. Okay, good. Let's accept that, and then let's go to this head and paint out what we don't want here. So go to full opacity on that brush. Start by just painting out this. Okay, we'll go here. So for some reason, something on the head layer is showing a border here. So we can go through and try to find that, or we can just add a layer mask to the head layer, and that'll be faster. So just paint that out. I don't know if you could see that quite clearly. If we zoom in here on his arm, there's that line there. So if I mask that out, we won't have to look at that. And then I'll just mask out everything outside here with the really big brush.